Men and women, we are blessed by them. Ve'ahavteilei re'acha kamocha. Ve'ahavteilei re'acha. When we shall live again. Oh yes, we shall be born again. We shall live again. Oh yes, we shall be born to sing for Yerushalem, Shatem, Aliyah, 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 Aliyah. We sing Aliyah, 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 Aliyah. Yerushalem, Shatem, 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 Amen.
And so this evening, we have a chance to open up something within ourselves that wants to live. We can have an experience of something being born within us that is ancient. It has been called the Ancient of Days, because it is that which was in the beginning and still resides within all of creation. And it is God making itself real through creation. That means you and me. That means all of us. Oh, what an opportunity. What an opportunity to touch that, to touch it, to feel it, to just be with it. So, I speak my word of blessing for each person here who would come in the dark of the night and wonder what kind of service will this be this time. No string theory, I promise you. So why are we here? Perhaps to remember and to touch that life, that light, that eternal essence, and become the manger through which it grows, to be that place of innocence where something good can be born. For this service is not about what happened. This service is about what's eternally happening, and let it happen within us this evening. And so it is.
By the shower comes crumbling to the sea. Oh, as we are gently singing, little sisters of the sun, won't you come, light your candles in the rain. We're in need of you here again. We will remain. Tell me who will light the way but you. You are a light for all the world. Would you shine it true? Light your lamp on the hills, ring them bells till all is well. Oh, and we shall live again. Oh, yes, we shall live again. Pray to and we shall live again. Oh yes, we shall live on my end. When we shall be born again. This night, this song, this dawn is singing for Jerusalem we belong. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. For the light that it brings we sing. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. For the light that we ring, we sing. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. For the light that we are, we sing. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Oh, thank you for being here this evening. My husband's in the audience, and he loved coming to the big events because the choir would sing, and especially the Hallelujah chorus. And he'd go, "Oh, the Hallelujah chorus!" That was this. We can't have a choir, but that was pretty darn good, don't you think? We are being COVID conscious, and that was amazing. The whole idea is to have some energy. We are not here to necessarily talk about something that happened, because you all know what happened. Anybody read the story? How many of you know the story of Christmas? So why would I tell it again? Well, we're New Thought Church, which means that we take ancient wisdom and old stories and try to make them our own, to give modern interpretations and applications. Although the interpretations I will be giving are not necessarily modern, they've been around for a long time, but not necessarily talked about. But the main thing is about a New Thought Church is that you take those thoughts and make them your own, and so that they can enrich your life. Meister Eckhart, the Christian mystic in the Middle Ages, Dark Ages actually, they were pretty dark. He was one of the few educated gentlemen in all of Europe. And what he said was, what good is it to me if Jesus were born 1,300 years ago, if that Christ is not born within me now? So that's sort of the way that I plan these things, is like, how can this affect us? So that the story is the story, and it's a good story, but how will it affect us? So that's what I'm here to lead us through, so that we go through this together, so that we have an experience together. And you know that word you were using, Rafe. What was the word?
Aliyah,
which
is a combination of hallelujah, which means praise, right? And aliyah, which means returning to the homeland, or returning to the self.
Wow. We actually should have like subtitles. Well, and we can do that now. So when Rafe sings, subtitles, because that was beautiful. That was wonderful. And so, if Meister Eckhart could say that these stories have to be good for me now, then that really does go along with some sort of, the way that we do religious ideas. Are they about something, or are they what someone said, or do they help us now? Richard Rohr, who is, I think he's a Dominican priest, he said that the function of religion is to radically connect us. radically connect us. The root word of the word religion, the root word was to bind together, so that we are made whole again and we see our own holiness. Wow, I love that idea. So tonight I want this to be a celebration of something that happened and it's a story, but what if we were also here to celebrate our own holiness? Our own innocence and our own capability and our own inclusivity. Because to me, that's the root of this story. The root of this story. So I want to take a religious idea that you've all heard of, and let's just begin with that. And that religious idea is the word Christ. You probably know this, but that was not his last name. Mr. and Mrs. Christ would like to introduce to you their baby Jesus. Christ was a title. It's a concept. And we can speak about it in a way, we need to speak about it in a way that's good for us if we're going to take on the idea of Meister Eckhart. And can we let that word bring us radically connected to the universe, to each other, and to all creation? Wow, now that would be something, wouldn't it? What if that word could do that for us? Now that would be an idea I would like to follow. Now Richard Rohr defines the Christ as the transcendent within everything. Dominican priest. The transcendent within everything. Ernest Holmes, the founder of our philosophy, said that the Christ is the Word of God manifest in and through humanity. He said is the divine revelation of wholeness. And I love that word, revelation. You know, I think we should have much more revelation and much less discussion. Because it seems like the discussion just goes round and round, everybody's got their idea. But boy, when you have a revelation, ooh, that changes you. And what I've noticed, because I studied this thing for all these people for a long time, I've studied Christian mystics and Sufi mystics and Hindu mystics, and they all say about the same thing, which is when we really wake up, it's all divine now, it's all holy now. It's all so sweet now. And Richard Rohr, in this book called The Universal Christ, which I'm sure you can get, but please don't start ordering it online while I'm talking. You know, I've asked, it's dark out there, I can't see you, but I've watched it before. I've watched it, I'll mention some book and somebody, you might miss something really important while you're trying to put that in there, so just listen. Richard Rohr, in The Universal Christ, he starts out with talking about a Christian mystic from the last century and her experience of the Christ. She had been praying and doing her own work, and she was in London, and she was on one of those underground railroads. She was in, I don't know what it was, underground, the tube. Ooh, he didn't use that word. I don't know, but it's a very good word. No, it sounds awful. Anyway. But she was underground in a what would seem like a train. Oh, yeah, I've seen those on Harry Potter. I know what they are. All right, so. And all of a sudden, she saw in every person the Christ, that spark, that which had inhabited the body of Jesus. She saw it in everyone. And she saw this light trying to express more fully through the person, no matter what they were doing. It was trying to express more fully. It was trying to just like get out. You know, there's the poet that said, we need to let out the imprisoned splendor. That we're born, and another poet said, we're born bringing trails of glory from heaven. I mean, like, just when she saw it everywhere, like, wow, I can almost see the pantomime if I could do the pantomime. That was her experience. It went on for 3 days. And then it started to fade away. But what she realizes, though, even though it faded away, what she knew is that there was something wonderful, divine, perfect, magnificent, wanting to express through the incarnation that it was inhabiting. And thus Richard Rohr came up with his definition of the Christ, which is the transcendent within everything. To that end, through music and message, I hope that we start to open out a way for that transcendent expression to express through us. For what good is it to me or to you or to any of us if we just tell the story again and we don't allow the story to become our story? And our incubation for something great to be born in us. Or not born, but born outwardly in us. So I hope you have an inner experience. That has been my prayer since I started beginning this. So let's just begin the lesson. Let's begin the lesson. And it starts way before Mary and Joseph. It starts way before Zachariah and Elizabeth, and way before and way before and way before. And I realized that when I was doing this story, it's a never-ending story. How many of you ever saw that movie? It's one of my favorites. If you haven't seen it, just make a mental note. Don't Google it now. But it's a great story. And it's about, it all is happening over and over and over again. And the story begins where it's always happening and it's still happening. And that's with oppression. Oppression. The Jewish people were once again oppressed. And so for generations and generations, the mothers and the fathers were crying out to their God to send some sort of savior. In that land at that time had been oppressed most of the time. Very seldom had they had their own sense of sovereignty and their own sense of political and religious freedom. Very seldom. And having been there, I can understand it because they were right on this beautiful road of trade from Egypt and Africa and into Asia, and they were in the way. So they were easy targets. And when I thought about that, I thought about, if this is our story, how many of us feel oppressed? And how many of us don't know our own sovereignty? We don't know our own self-rule. Instead, we're ruled by this or that or this, or even our own stinking thinking. And, it's that we have no control. Well, that's how they were feeling. For generations before this story started, there was a cry for God to show up and save them. To save them. The mothers and the fathers had called out for deliverance. And I'm not just talking here, but you're the ones in front of me. But there's people crying out all over the world right now to be delivered. Sometimes it just feels good to wail, doesn't it? You know, I think New Thought people, spiritual people can be so high-minded. Doesn't bother me. Sometimes you just want to cry. David cried. He was willing to let it all hang out. I had the privilege of going to the Wailing Wall when I was in Jerusalem. Such a wonderful place where people were up against the wall with tears in their eyes and hitting the wall and just moving like this, and crying. And then at the same time, back farther away from the wall and with a partition, as families are celebrating bar mitzvahs. And just bar mitzvahs at that time. And it's like, wow, that's the way life is, isn't it? We have our celebrations, and we have our, oh, this hurts. I believe that if God has ever answered a prayer, God answers prayers, but the problem is sometimes not in the way we expect. So here was the crying out over and over and over again by generations and generations of people. So save us, and I'm sure that God hears, and God heard, and God will always hear those prayers. I think it's the Congregational Church that says God's still talking. Well, God's still listening too. It's paying attention. The problem is that sometimes the prayer doesn't turn out exactly like we thought. Now, why is that? See, I believe that the universe is in a conspiracy for our benefit, not for our comfort. The universe is in a conspiracy for our benefit, not necessarily for our good times. Perhaps the universe is in a conspiracy to grow our soul, individually and collectively. And so, what if, instead of sending another David, or another Solomon, or more Maccabees, God sent a new idea. The idea that there could be a realm of power within the human being that would not make them subject to conditions and effects. That's like people crying out for ways that we didn't have to use so much fossil fuel. And God said, let there be Tesla. Or other electric cars. It's like what if the universe said, you know, even if I sent you a ruler, there's still going to be people coming to get you. What if you could have your soul be self-motivated and self-affirming and self-directed? That would be the Christ consciousness. The realm, by the way, the kingdom, that thing about the kingdom of heaven was actually a feminine word, which would have been a queendom, just saying. And heaven is harmony, so what if there's a queendom of harmony that's available to all of us? Inside of us, a place of harmony where that can happen, but you know what? You can't touch. You cannot touch how I feel about myself. You will not touch the way that I will react, for I am a sovereign within me. It's an idea. Now that would be a great thing, a great opening in the history of humankind in consciousness. Now the Buddha had reached that place too, and so had other saints prior to that, but this story is our story. And so an idea or a child was born. An idea was born into humankind, and it was born into someone who was willing to listen and accept direction, even though the idea was preposterous. Really. I read it again. And to Mary, it was preposterous. How can this happen? The Holy Spirit will be upon you. Here's the deal. This is for someone in this room. Oh, I'm not supposed to be that close. I'm going to get used to this. Well, no, because of the ringing. But so, what if we admitted that we really hurt and we really needed help, and since God is always talking, it downloads an idea that is absolutely wonderful and yet preposterous? How many of you can admit that you've had those downloads? 2 of you. You need to come to our center more often. We believe in downloads and miracles and direction. But so these things happen, and we get these ideas, and yet we call them preposterous, and therefore we don't entertain them and let them grow into fruition. We don't let them grow into something that can be actualized. We're not willing to give birth to that idea. The wonderful thing that I love about Mary is that she was willing to not only listen, and it says, and in the Bible it says she pondered those ideas. She was willing to listen, take them in, ponder them, and say, okay, I don't understand. I don't see how this can work, but I'm willing to do my part. She's really the star of the show as far as I'm concerned. This evening, just as you listen to the song that Rafe is going to sing, ask yourself, what have you heard? What are you willing to hear? And if it comes from that deep place within you where it's not a head trip, are you willing to be the place where something new shows up? Are you willing to bring forth a whole new realm of consciousness?
Ave Maria, gratia, gratia plena, o Ave, Ave Maria, gratia Sophia. O Ave, Ave Maria, grant us your grace. O Mary, Ave
And so we have an opportunity in this moment to accept that grace. To accept that grace. That grace that allows. That grace that allows. You know, I've never had a child, but I took biology classes, and so I think I know what goes on. But once that's been conceived, the mother takes care of herself, and nature takes care of the rest. And I think in this culture that we have, that if it is to be, it's up to me, we get an idea and then we go about trying to make it happen. That's not this story. This story is allowing it, letting grace move through us as we care for ourselves. Oh, what a beautiful story. And if God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, then it is always willing to bring about new things to those who are willing to listen and serve the process and not make it happen. And then we have our dear Joseph. Joseph is that aspect of humanity who stands up for their inner direction and supports the process going on, supports the highest idea. You know, Joseph was a good man, and, you know, they had laws, and it could have gone sideways really fast. And yet he was directed to do a thing, and he stood by it, and he did the thing. He didn't make it happen. He didn't make the idea happen. He didn't make the shift in consciousness happen. But he stood up for his highest inner direction. Now, why am I bringing that up? Because I sometimes think we acquiesce. I acquiesce. I don't want to make ruffles. You know, I don't want to talk about things I believe in if I think that will make other people uncomfortable. I don't want to be seen as weird. I'll just be honest. I share things with the members on our Facebook page, the CSL member page, that I don't share on my own Facebook page. It's like sometimes I'm afraid to come out of the closet for believing that everything is holy now. Even though it says I'm a minister. And then it's like, what? No, I'm radical. I believe that God shows up everywhere and that there is always something good happening if I'm willing to accept it. Yet, if you go on my Facebook page, you see horse pictures. And they're pretty cool. So, what if each and every one of us, because we could make a difference. Ernest Holmes said that if 100 people would really know the truth and stand with it, we could start to shift the world. A lot of us know the truth, but we just that's all, What if we were radically spiritual people, not religious people? It was like everything is an opportunity to express some sort of beautiful, wonderful principle of wholeness and goodness. What if we stood for that? That's what Joseph did. And I thank him for it. And we have a song.
Welcome, Emmanuel, and ransom has come to thee, O Israel. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel has come to thee, O Israel. Oh, come, thou day spring from on high, and cause thy light on us to rise. Disperse the gloomy clouds of night. Oh, and there's dark shadows put to flight now. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Oh, come, true prophet of the Lord. Oh, and turn the key to heaven's door. Be thou our comforter and guide. Oh, and lead us to the further side. Yeah. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee as well. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel shall come to thee as well. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel.
Wow. Now, I'm not sure how to do this, but because musicians know where, I don't know music talk. But here's the deal. When you hear something like that, and it doesn't if you don't let yourself really take it in, then you miss something. It's like going to a really great banquet and looking at all the food and going, wow, that's really great. Only in Northern Europe do we do most of our worship up here. Every other culture gets their body involved. They get their body involved. Now, here's the other thing. For those of you that think it's kind of weird to get your body involved, I'll give you a little simple thing. Do you know that there are a few things that are cross-cultural, like everywhere? There are certain things that really portray, the body portrays something. Now, what do you think this portrays? Victory. Watch anyone at the Olympics, no matter where they came from. When they just won, when they crossed the line a half a second before anybody else, they're doing this, not second place. It is a universal, cross-cultural sign of we won. I won. So when I listen to this song, it's like, Emmanuel, God with us. Israel, guess what happened? It happened. God's with us. I mean, that's like a victory. Let's do the lap. Sing it again, get involved.
Shall come to thee right here, right now, as well. Woo!
So, the last part of the story that I want to tell is the story that was happening in the manger. Now, this manger story is great. How many of you have seen those creches, right? There were shepherds, lowly shepherds. They were the ones that were sent out, you take care of the sheep at night. Lowly shepherds, and guess what? Big rich guys on camels. So some arrived on a moped. Nah, they walked. And the other guys arrived in limos. Version. Middle Eastern at that time version of a limo would have been a camel. And then we had cattle. We had actual animals showing up. So I thought, shepherds and wise men and cattle, oh my. This is the story of inclusion. In this beginning story, everyone is welcome. When we start to acknowledge that which wants to be born in us, the transcendent, everyone is welcome. Everyone's welcome. Now, I'm not sure what, according to the story, they came at different times, but in your creche, they're all there. And what did the wise men think about going into a stable? And something lowly, and yet, it's like, when we start to wake up to that transcendence and everything is holy now, like the woman on the train, it's all the divine wanting to express and escape. I'm just so impressed with that. The wise men, the royalty, the magi, and the shepherds. We have so much division even in religious circles. I'll be really honest. I saw this wonderful gentleman on Facebook, a really wonderful gentleman, a wonderful minister, being criticized because he had a new house by another minister. Like, how did you do that? I don't know, maybe he prayed. Maybe he believes what we teach. So, and I'm getting at this because I think sometimes we want to do spirituality with our own kind. And yet this story says all kinds. All kinds are invited to the party. God invites everybody to the party because it'd be much more fun. So let's have a party. Let's understand that we are, have always been, will always be the beloved. And if we're the beloved, then guess what? Everybody's the beloved. That's you.
I am not from the east nor the west, not from the ocean or up from the ground, not natural, ethereal, not composed of elements at all. I do not exist, am not an entity in this world or the next. I did not descend from Adam nor from Eve or any origin story. My place is the placeless, trace of the traceless, neither body nor soul. I belong to the beloved. I belong to love. I belong to the beloved. Belong to the beloved. I belong to love. Belong to love. I belong to the beloved. Belong to the beloved. I belong to love. Belong to love. And not one place to exist. First, last, outer, inner, only that breath, only this breath breathing, only this breath breathing, only this breath breathing, only this breath breathing. I belong to this beloved, belong to the beloved. I belong to love, belong to love. I belong to the beloved, belong to the beloved. Oh, I belong to love, belong to love. I belong to the beloved, belong to the beloved. Oh, you belong to love, belong to love. Oh, you belong to the beloved, belong to the beloved. Oh, you belong to love. We need to become the pen in the sun's hands. We need for this earth to sing through our open eyes again. This body will become so restless, until your soul paints all its beauty upon earth's sky, and you say, I am so alive, and you say, I am so alive. Ishla mabulela, ishla mabule, I am so alive, so alive. Ishla mabulela, ishla mabule, I am so alive, so alive. Ishla mabulela, ishla mabule, I am so alive, so alive. Ishla mabulela, ishla mabule, I am so alive. Sing it out. So alive. Ishla mabule, ishla mabule, so alive, so alive. Ishla mabulela, ishla mabule, so alive, so alive. Ishla mabulela,
Okay, do you feel more alive? Well, mission accomplished. Sort of. Right now, I would like to just point out a few things to you, and then also, Jeffrey, do you have the basket? Do you want to bring the basket up? You have an opportunity to give, to support this ministry. But a lot of you, we didn't get quite as many as we'd like. We have classes available next year that you can participate in, just so that you support yourself in what wants to be born in you. We still have to support ourselves. And also we have 2 more holiday opportunities, the World Healing Meditation at 4 a.m., and our wonderful Gary Schultz will be leading that again, and it'll be in here. And then New Year's Eve service, that's our, it used to be the pre-party gathering. Now it's probably just the gathering. But totally different energy and fun, and yet very intentional. So you're invited to both of those. Also, you're invited to join me in March if you have your passport up to date, because Rafe and I are going to Egypt. Not to, I mean, you know, that's how rumors get started. Okay, no, let me be very specific. I am leading another group to Egypt, and Rafe will be doing the music. And we get to have, we're pretty much in most of those places by ourselves. So we'll be singing in beautiful, amazing, resounding areas where lots of vibration can happen. So think about it. And then also just know that you're loved, and come anytime, because it's kind of fun to be in the vibe. You know, we still have a lot of our members who don't feel comfortable, or we've just got so many members that don't even live in this area anymore. But if you're in the Seattle area, the Green Lake area, come by, because the vibe is good. The vibe is always good. So you brought the basket up. I'd love for you to consider what you would like to give before we have our candlelight service. And one more lesson. What do you feel called to share? So there are wonderful opportunities on the screen behind me for sharing, ways that you can do that. We have envelopes in most of the seat backs in front of you. Also, we have connection cards in the seat backs in front of you, so you can fill that out and bring it back sometime or mail it in, because being on our mailing list really does, let you be informed about all the things that we offer. And there's also oftentimes a little card with a QR code. We try to make it as simple as possible. We are moving into, finally we're moving into the century. COVID has been such a teacher. How many of you noticed that you had to progress and learn new things? Babies. So we're going to play some beautiful music. The way that we do it here is that people that want to give just come up, and instead of passing a basket, we just let people drop things in there. And if you are one of our wonderful members that give automatically and regularly, you might want to just come up and bless it. And it's sort of fun to move towards and become engaged in the process of giving. I just realized that I need to wear heels more and cowboy boots less. So get used to these things. So it is a never-ending story. We have a never-ending story going on. And yet we can change the ending at any time. And when we change our ending, we are the place where another beginning can start for us, for our family, our friends, and our culture. I believe that there will always be victimization. And there will always be a need for a hero until the Christ light reveals itself through more and more and more people. Trickle-down legislation doesn't work. We can't wait for our leaders to get it. The leaders always follow the followers. And when we start to live out of love, when we realize, you know what? I belong to the beloved. No, you don't understand. It's not what party I belong to. I belong to the beloved. I belong to love. And more of that transcendent energy starts to escape from us, the more the story will change. That's when the story changes. When we get off the Dharma wheel of over and over and over again and know the way of love and connection, when we do that, our life shifts and we become a place of transformation for others as well. So that's what I love about this candlelighting. We don't, we're in a wood building, so we're not going to use real candles. Besides that, Patrick would spend days getting the wax off the carpet, and we just stopped. One time, we even had a woman's hair catch on fire. Too much hairspray. No, really. It's just safest not to do that. So way before COVID protocols, we had new protocols. Fake candles. So in a moment, we're going to listen to a song about us being the place where something new shows up. Us allowing the divine idea of that transcendent reality to be birthed in us and escape from us. Now, it doesn't mean we lose it. Just like if the light escapes from a candle or a flashlight or a spotlight, as long as the light is plugged in or has access to a battery, it doesn't run out. The light is shared. So when you feel called, I encourage you, when you listen to this music, when you feel called, then light your candle. Then share it. Because be Joseph. Don't do it because the person next to you does. Do it because you finally know it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
We are a candle of the Lord. We are birthing a miracle. We are a candle of the Lord. Come, let your light shine out. We are a candle of this holy love, and we are birthing our miracles. We are the candles of the Lord. Come, let your light shine now. We are children of light. We have the power and the might. We are the children of light. Come and light our world. Oh, you come and light our world. 'Cause we are the candle of the Lord. We are birthing this miracle. We are the candle of this holy love, and we are birthing each one and all. We are the candles of the Lord. Oh, and we're birthing now a new miracle. 'Cause we are the candles of a holy, holy road of love. And we are birthing our miracles. Oh, we are the candles. Oh, we are the candles. Oh, we are birthing miracles. We are the candles. Let your light light up us, light us all. 'Cause we are the candles of the Lord, and we are birthing our miracle. We are the candles of the Lord. Come, let your light shine out. Come, let your light shine now. Come, let your light shine.